Good morning, friends. I am going to read to you from Bootlace Magician. We're on chapter 3. It's a strange title. It's called Terpsichore. Terpsichore. Micah slept until noon the next day, and even then it was only the sound of loud splashing that woke him. Fish, his sleep-addled brain thought. Not again. He fought to get out from under his covers, struggling against the weight of the oversized patchwork quilt the strong men had given him as a welcome to the circus present. He fell out of his bed and flopped around on the floor for a few seconds before he realized that the splashing sound couldn't possibly be coming all the way from the menagerie. In fact, it was coming from his own bathroom. Chintzy, he groaned, his face smooshed into the soft blue rug. You'd better not be in my sink. He was answered by the familiar hoom, hoom, hoom sound of the messenger parrot beating her wings to dry them off. His bathroom would be completely splattered. Don't use my toothbrush on your toenails, he shouted. Mind your business, Chintzy squawked back. So she was definitely using his toothbrush. Yuck, Micah muttered, finally extricating himself from the quilt. He stood and saw that his bedroom must have been trying to wake him for a while. The lamps were shining at full brightness, illuminating a cozy space that was starting to look familiar, if not quite like home. Micah hadn't had many possessions when he moved in with the light bender, just a couple boxes full of clothes and knickknacks. He'd been touched when he arrived to find that everyone at the circus had pitched in to decorate his new room. The magicians had given him odds and ends from their own tents. A small bookcase doubled as Micah's bedside table, and 2 green glass floor lamps turned themselves on whenever they thought he needed light. The chest of drawers in one corner folded anything you put in it. Oh man, that'd be awesome. Which was so convenient he didn't even mind the odd creases it left down the front of his shirts. And of course, there was the patchwork quilt, so large that even after Micah had spread it back out over the bed, it trailed off the edges and onto the rug. He dressed and threw open the flap that led into the bathroom, where he found his toothbrush lying suspiciously in a puddle. Chintzy, who didn't look even a little bit guilty, was standing on the edge of the sink, carefully rearranging her bright red tail feathers with her beak. Is this going to be an everyday thing? Micah asked her. Why can't you use the bird bath in the menagerie? Ha! Chintzy squawked around a mouthful of feathers. Me? Use public facilities? Why don't you go use one or the other? Human baths if you don't like sharing. But Micah didn't know what he should address first. The fact that human baths wasn't a word, or the fact that he would like sharing fine if the person he was sharing with didn't leave wet feathers and bird poop on the floor. Anyway, said Chintzy, shaking her tail at him, I should be allowed to take a bath because I brought you mail. Micah's annoyance evaporated. Mail meant a letter from Jenny Mendoza. Ooh. When he had left her behind in Peel, she had promised to write him weekly, and of course she had proven better than her word. She'd written him a long letter every other day, and she had even come up with a way of keeping Chintzy happy about making so many deliveries. What was it this time? Micah asked. Guava jam, Chintzy said. A whole spoonful of it, and she used my special plate, and... Micah nodded politely while Chintzy described, for the dozenth time, the ceramic plate Jenny had bought for her at a thrift store. Jenny had painted the parrot's name on it, and when Chintzy was scheduled to arrive, she filled it with treats and left it on her nightstand beside her latest letter. The treats were always different, and Jenny refused to tell Chintzy what they were going to be in advance. This made the parrot intensely curious. Just last week, she'd sneaked into Porter's tent in the middle of the night and woken the magician to demand that he open the mailbox door he always used to send her to Peel. Micah brushed his teeth as best he could with his fingers, while Chintzy waxed poetic about her plate and her jam and her favorite human, Jenny, who she was sure wouldn't mind sharing a bathroom with a highly important parrot. And when I got back here, I flew straight to the kitchen to tell them all about guava jam. And do you know what I found out? Micah spat into the sink. What? They have guava jam, she said. Right here! Our circus! She peered at Micah through one bright yellow eye, clearly expecting him to be flabbergasted. Wow, he said, trying to look impressed. That's great news, Chintzy. The kitchen magicians at Circus Miranda's could whip up pretty much every food you had ever heard of, but Chintzy was excited, and Micah didn't want to burst her bubble. I'd better ask if they'll let me try some of that jam before they run out. Yes, she said, bobbing her head. And you should hurry because they've only got 3.5 jars. I counted. You should bring me one of them with a spoon and a plate with my name on it. And the spoon could have my name on it too. Right, Micah said. But now, not now, because the head was in the kitchen when I flew in. He said he wanted to see you in the menagerie, and I told him you would come right over. When was this? Said Micah, hastily drying his hands on his shorts. Was he upset? No, it was before my bath. Hey, don't run away, I brought mail. I love Chintzy. We'll finish the rest later.